Maya Carter was just supposed to defend her client, Jacob Morales, a man falsely accused of murder. But the deeper she dug, the more she realized this wasn't just about one wrongful conviction. The judge, the prosecutor, even the system itself, they were all working against her. When her evidence mysteriously disappeared, when witnesses were bribed to lie, when the judge himself tried to silence her, Maya knew one thing: someone powerful wanted this case buried. But Maya Carter doesn't back down. What started as one trial turned into a war against corruption, a war that put her career, her life, and everything she believed in on the line. How far will they go to stop her? And how far will she go to expose the truth? Subscribe now for more gripping stories, and let us know, where in the world are you watching from? The courtroom buzzed with whispers as Maya Carter approached the defense table, her heels clicking sharply against the floor. She had walked into countless courtrooms before, but today felt different. The air was thick with tension, an unspoken hostility lingering in the way the judge, the prosecution, and even the bailiffs looked at her. Judge Richard Whitmore, sitting high above them all, adjusted his glasses and smirked. "Ms. Carter, do you know where you are?" Maya met his gaze with unwavering confidence. "Yes, Your Honor." "Do you?" The room fell silent. She placed her leather briefcase on the table and flipped the latches open. Her fingers reached for the case files, the key evidence that would unravel the prosecution's narrative, but the moment her hand met the folder, she felt it. Or rather, she didn't feel it. The files were gone. Her stomach clenched. She had spent weeks gathering witness statements, video footage, and forensic reports, all of it crucial to proving Jacob Morales' innocence. Now, everything had vanished. Maya's mind raced. The briefcase had been in her possession all morning. No one had touched it. But the court security checkpoint, the thought hit her like a punch. She had handed her briefcase over for inspection, just like every other attorney. Could someone have? Across the room, Prosecutor Lisa Monroe leaned back, crossing her arms, watching Maya with an expression of smug satisfaction. "Something wrong, Ms. Carter?" Lisa asked, tilting her head slightly. Maya masked her panic. "Not at all." Lisa's smirk deepened. "Oh, I could have sworn you looked surprised. I hope you're not missing anything important." The bait was obvious. Maya refused to take it. Instead, she reached into her blazer pocket and pulled out her phone. "I don't believe in surprises, Ms. Monroe. That's why I sent copies of my evidence to multiple sources, including the press." Lisa's smirk dropped. Judge Whitmore straightened in his seat. "Ms. Carter, this is a court of law, not a tabloid. Are you saying you distributed evidence outside of legal proceedings?" Maya didn't blink. "I'm saying that I prepared for this exact scenario, Your Honor." The murmur in the courtroom grew louder. Lisa clenched her jaw, her fingers curling into fists. Whitmore tapped his gavel. "Ms. Carter, I will not tolerate theatrics. Do you have evidence or not?" Maya lifted her phone. "I do, Your Honor. And in case any documents mysteriously vanish, I have digital backups on secure servers. If necessary, I can have them printed and delivered within minutes." Lisa's nostrils flared. The judge's face darkened. Maya knew what they were thinking. They had tried to sabotage her, but she had been one step ahead. Whitmore sighed, rubbing his temples. "Proceed." Maya took a deep breath. The battle was far from over, but the first move had been played. She turned to Jacob Morales, who sat beside her, his wrists still bearing the faint red marks from the handcuffs removed minutes before. His eyes filled with both hope and fear locked onto hers. "Are we okay?" he whispered. Maya nodded. "We're better than okay." Across the room, Lisa Monroe fumed. She had lost round one, but Maya knew she wouldn't go down without a fight. This case wasn't just about winning, it was about exposing the people who had spent years twisting the justice system in their favor. As Maya stood to present her first argument, she knew one thing for certain. This trial was about to become the biggest scandal in judicial history. And she was ready. The tension in the courtroom thickened as Walter Briggs took the stand. He was the prosecution's star witness, the man who had supposedly seen Jacob Morales at the crime scene, the foundation of their case. Lisa Monroe stood confidently, adjusting her suit jacket. She knew this was her moment to regain control after Maya's unexpected comeback in the previous round. "Mr. Briggs," Lisa began, "can you confirm to the court that you saw the defendant, Jacob Morales, at the crime scene at exactly 9:45 p.m.? Briggs sat up straight, cleared his throat, and nodded. "Yes, ma'am. No doubt about it." Lisa turned to the jury, smiling. "No doubt about it," she echoed. Maya remained still, her expression unreadable. Lisa continued, "Can you describe what you saw?" Briggs took a deep breath. "I was walking home from my shop. I saw Jacob Morales near the alleyway, wearing a dark hoodie. He looked nervous, shifty. A few minutes later, I heard sirens. That's when I knew something bad had happened." Lisa nodded in satisfaction. "Thank you, Mr. Briggs. No further questions." She turned, glancing at Maya with a smug smile, as if daring her to challenge the testimony. Maya rose from her seat. "Mr. Briggs, where do you live?" Briggs frowned at the unexpected question. "Uptown," he answered hesitantly. "Uptown," Maya repeated, nodding. "And your shop is downtown, correct?" "Yeah." "So, you were walking downtown at exactly 9:45 p.m., where you claim to have seen Jacob Morales?" Briggs nodded. "That's right." Maya paced slowly, her voice calm. "Where were you earlier that day?" Briggs hesitated. "What does that have to do with anything?" Maya smiled. "Humor me." Briggs shifted in his seat. "I was just out running errands." Maya picked up a remote control and clicked a button. A screen behind her lit up, displaying a time-stamped security video from a Las Vegas hotel lobby showing Walter Briggs checking in at 9:30 p.m. on the night of the crime. A collective gasp filled the courtroom. Briggs' face drained of color. Maya let the silence hang before she spoke. "Mr. Briggs, do you still have no doubt about what you saw that night?" Lisa shot up from her seat. "Objection. This is Judge Whitmore's," gavel slammed down. "Overruled. Ms. Carter, continue." Maya turned back to the jury. "Ladies and gentlemen, this man, whom the prosecution presented as a reliable eyewitness, was not even in the same state at the time of the crime." Briggs swallowed hard, his hands gripping the edges of the witness stand. "I must have gotten the dates mixed up." Maya tilted her head. "You were willing to swear under oath that you saw Jacob Morales, knowing full well you were hundreds of miles away? I wonder, why would someone do that?" Lisa looked furious. "Objection speculative." Maya didn't back down. "I'll rephrase. Mr. Briggs, were you offered any incentives to testify?" Briggs shook his head rapidly. "No." Maya clicked another button. The screen changed to a digital bank statement, showing a $50,000 deposit into Briggs' account just one day before his testimony. The room erupted. Lisa stood abruptly. "Your Honor, this is irrelevant." Judge Whitmore rubbed his temples, clearly frustrated. But before he could rule, Maya spoke again. "This money came from an account connected to the prosecution's office." She turned to Lisa. "Would you care to explain why your office paid a fraudulent witness?" Lisa froze. The jury murmured among themselves, eyes darting between Lisa, Briggs, and Maya. Judge Whitmore's fingers tightened around his gavel. His jaw clenched. "Court will adjourn for recess," he declared hastily. "We will reconvene in 30 minutes." He slammed the gavel down, and the courtroom burst into chaos. As Maya gathered her notes, Lisa stormed toward her. "I don't know how you got that information, but you just made a big mistake." Maya smiled unfazed. "The only mistake here is thinking that you could get away with this." Lisa's nostrils flared. "Watch your back, Carter." Maya leaned in slightly, lowering her voice. "Lisa, if I were you, I'd be more worried about my own back. Because by the end of this trial, I will expose you." Lisa turned sharply and walked away. Maya took a deep breath. She had just shattered the prosecution's key witness. But she knew this was far from over. If Lisa had bribed one witness, what else was she hiding? And more importantly, who else was involved? The courtroom remained in chaos even after Judge Whitmore's gavel slammed down to call for recess. The revelation that Walter Briggs had lied under oath and had been paid by someone in the prosecution's office had shattered the case's foundation. Maya had delivered a devastating blow, but she knew this wasn't over. She sat down at the defense table, exhaling slowly. Across the room, Lisa Monroe was locked in a whispered, furious conversation with her assistant. She was losing control and she knew it. Jacob Morales, sitting beside Maya, leaned in. "I can't believe that just happened," he muttered. "They really paid that guy to lie?" Maya nodded. "And that means there's more they're hiding." Jacob rubbed his hands together nervously. "What now?" Maya's eyes flickered toward Lisa, and then toward Judge Whitmore, who sat stiffly on his bench, his expression unreadable. She had seen him step in to protect Lisa once before, and she knew he would try again. "We go deeper," she said. When court resumed, Judge Whitmore was visibly tense. He adjusted his robe, cleared his throat, and looked directly at Maya. "Ms. Carter, while your recent revelation was unexpected, I must remind you that we are here to focus on the facts of this case. Do you have any additional evidence, or are we simply relying on theatrics?" Maya smiled politely. "Actually, Your Honor, I do have more evidence." Lisa shot Maya a sharp look. "Objection, she's trying to introduce new evidence without notifying the court." Maya turned, unfazed. "Ms. Monroe, you didn't notify the court when you bribed a witness." The courtroom gasped. Lisa's jaw clenched. "That accusation is baseless." Maya raised a brow. "Is it?" She turned back to the judge. "Your Honor, I request the surveillance footage from the area surrounding the crime scene." Lisa's smirk returned. Unfortunately, the security cameras near the crime scene were not operational that night. Maya expected that answer. Lisa had likely arranged for the footage to disappear. But Maya had anticipated this move. "Interesting," Maya mused, tapping her pen against the table. "Because I obtained footage from a neighboring store's security system." Lisa stiffened. Maya pulled out a USB drive and walked toward the courtroom monitor. "With the court's permission, I'd like to play the footage." Judge Whitmore hesitated. For the first time, he looked genuinely nervous. But he couldn't deny the request without raising suspicions. "Proceed," he muttered. Maya inserted the USB. The screen flickered to life. A grainy but clear video feed showed a well-lit street. A timestamp in the corner read 9:45 p.m., the exact time of the crime. The footage played. Several people walked along the sidewalk. Cars passed by. But one thing was missing: Jacob Morales. He wasn't there. Maya let the silence hang for a moment before speaking. "The prosecution claims that Jacob Morales was at this exact location at 9:45 p.m., yet the footage clearly shows otherwise." Lisa stood abruptly. "This proves nothing. The camera angle might not cover the entire scene." Maya wasn't finished. "Let's continue watching." The video rolled forward another 2 minutes. Then a shadowy figure appeared on screen. A man in a dark hoodie. The same description the prosecution had used for Jacob. But something was off. The man was taller and heavier than Jacob. And then, as he moved closer to the streetlight, his face was revealed. It wasn't Jacob Morales. The room exploded with whispers. Maya turned to Lisa, her expression sharp. "Tell me, Ms. Monroe, if Jacob Morales was your suspect, why didn't you investigate this man?" Lisa opened her mouth, but had no response. Judge Whitmore looked furious. "Enough. Ms. Carter, where did you obtain this footage?" Maya smiled. "From a concerned citizen who didn't want to see an innocent man go to prison." Judge Whitmore slammed his gavel. "Court is adjourned for the day." We will reconvene tomorrow." He stood quickly, leaving before anyone could question him further. Lisa remained seated, her hands shaking. She was losing, and Maya had just unearthed another hole in her case. As Maya gathered her things, Jacob looked at her in awe. "You just proved I wasn't even there." She nodded. "And tomorrow I'll prove who was." Lisa shot Maya a final glare before storming out of the courtroom. Maya exhaled slowly. Lisa wasn't just incompetent, she was covering something up. And Maya was getting closer to the truth. The next morning, the tension in the courtroom was unbearable. The events of the previous day had sent shockwaves through everyone present. Maya Carter had dismantled the prosecution's case piece by piece, proving that their star witness had lied and that the security footage completely contradicted their claims. But there was still one pressing question. If Jacob Morales wasn't at the crime scene, who was? Maya sat at the defense table, tapping her fingers rhythmically. She had a theory. But if she was right, this case wasn't just about an innocent man being framed, it was about an entire system built to ensure people like Jacob never stood a chance. Across the room, Lisa Monroe looked exhausted. Her once pristine suit looked slightly disheveled, and there were faint bags under her eyes. She had spent the night scrambling to salvage what was left of her case. She knew she was losing. But Maya also knew something else. Lisa wasn't working alone. Judge Richard Whitmore entered the courtroom, and for the first time, he didn't look so smug. He barely glanced at Maya as he took his seat. That was the first red flag. Maya folded her hands on the table. Whitmore had been protecting Lisa this entire time. He had dismissed her evidence, given Lisa unnecessary advantages, and ignored blatant prosecutorial misconduct. But after the footage yesterday, he didn't shut her down. He had ended court early, looking visibly uncomfortable. Was he trying to distance himself? Maya intended to find out. She rose from her seat. "Your Honor, I would like to submit a motion to dismiss this case based on prosecutorial misconduct." Lisa immediately shot up. "Objection. The defense is making baseless claims." Maya didn't even look at her. "Baseless?" She turned to the jury. "Ladies and gentlemen, so far we have seen a witness who lied under oath and was paid off. Tampered evidence meant to frame my client. A missing suspect who the prosecution ignored. If that's not misconduct, what is?" Lisa clenched her fists. "Your Honor, the defense is..." Whitmore slammed his gavel. "Enough." He pinched the bridge of his nose. Motion denied. Maya expected that. She just wanted to see how fast he would shut her down. And he hadn't hesitated. She smirked slightly. He was protecting Lisa. That meant he was hiding something too. Maya turned back to her desk and picked up a manila folder. She held it up. "Your Honor, if I may, I'd like to enter into evidence a financial report from the prosecution's office." Lisa's eyes widened. "Objection." Maya cut her off. "This is public record. The court has a right to see it." Judge Whitmore opened his mouth, but before he could rule against her, Maya walked toward the jury and flipped open the folder. "This document shows an unapproved transfer of $200,000 from a discretionary fund directly to Walter Briggs." A collective gasp filled the courtroom. Lisa froze. Maya turned to her, raising an eyebrow. "Would you like to explain why your office paid a convicted felon $200,000 right before he falsely testified against my client?" Lisa's mouth opened and closed, her entire body rigid. Whitmore looked like he wanted to sink into the floor. Maya wasn't done. She flipped to the next page. "But here's the interesting part. The authorization signature on this transfer." She turned the folder toward the court. Judge Richard Whitmore's name was on the document. The courtroom erupted. Whitmore's face turned red. His hands gripped the arms of his chair. "Ms. Carter, you will cease this line of questioning immediately." Maya tilted her head. "Why, Your Honor?" "Because I found proof that you helped frame an innocent man." Lisa looked like she wanted to disappear. Maya continued, her voice sharp. We all wondered why the prosecution ignored the real suspect, why they fabricated evidence instead of investigating. She turned to Lisa. And now we know why. Maya turned the next page. This document also shows an additional transfer from an unknown donor directly to Judge Whitmore's personal account. Silence. Whitmore stood abruptly. I will not entertain this circus any longer. We are adjourning. Maya held up her hand. Before you do, Your Honor, she said smoothly, I should probably mention that the FBI has been listening to this trial, and they were very interested in these documents. The courtroom doors swung open. 2 federal agents entered. Whitmore's face drained of all color. Lisa sat completely still, staring at her desk. One of the agents stepped forward, holding up a badge. Judge Richard Whitmore, we have questions about your financial dealings and obstruction of justice. The judge stumbled back into his chair. This is outrageous. The agent looked unimpressed. We have enough probable cause to place you under investigation. You can either cooperate or we can escalate this to immediate detainment. Whitmore's hands trembled. Lisa suddenly bolted from her seat. The other agent grabbed her arm. Not so fast, Ms. Monroe. The jury watched in complete shock. Maya let out a slow breath. She had done it. She had not only exposed the prosecution's lies, but had uncovered a network of corruption that went all the way to the judge himself. She turned to Jacob, whose eyes were wide with disbelief. I told you, she whispered. We'd win this. Judge Whitmore leaned forward, gripping the desk. You think this ends here, Carter? He hissed. You have no idea what you've started. Maya's lips curled into a small, victorious smile. Oh, I think I do, she said. And for the first time, Judge Richard Whitmore looked afraid. The courtroom was frozen in stunned silence. Judge Richard Whitmore, once untouchable, was now caught in the very web of corruption he had helped weave. The presence of 2 federal agents only confirmed what many had suspected, but never dared to say out loud the justice system had been rigged. And now, it was collapsing in real time. Whitmore sat rigid in his chair, his fingers gripping the armrests so tightly that his knuckles turned white. His carefully built facade of control was crumbling. Across the room, Lisa Monroe was still trapped in the agent's firm grip, her breath shallow, her skin pale. She had been the face of this prosecution, but now it was clear she was just a pawn in a much bigger game. Maya Carter stood firm, feeling the weight of the moment. She had done it. She had exposed the truth. But she wasn't finished yet. Whitmore, despite being cornered, wasn't going down without a fight. This is a disgrace, he barked, his voice shaking. You can't just barge into my courtroom and humiliate me like this. One of the federal agents stepped forward. Your Honor, we are operating under federal jurisdiction. We have reason to believe you engaged in financial crimes, obstruction of justice, and abuse of judicial power. Whitmore let out a bitter laugh. You have no solid proof. Maya cleared her throat. Actually, we do. She turned to her desk and picked up another document. This, she said, holding it up, is an email from an anonymous whistleblower within the court system, detailing how your offshore account in the Cayman Islands received multiple wire transfers from donors linked to the prosecution's office. The jury gasped. Even the bailiffs exchanged uneasy glances. Whitmore's face turned ashen. Maya continued, walking slowly toward the judge's bench. You see, Your Honor, I spent a lot of time wondering why you were so eager to shut me down. Why you dismissed my evidence so quickly. Why you let the prosecution get away with misconduct. And now I know the answer. She placed the document on his desk. Because you were getting paid to do it. Whitmore's jaw clenched, but he had no rebuttal. He knew it. Maya knew it. And now, the entire courtroom knew it. Lisa Monroe, sensing that she was moments away from losing everything, suddenly turned to the agents. I didn't know about the offshore account, she blurted. I was just following orders. Maya smirked. There it was. Lisa wasn't loyal. She was just trying to save herself. One of the agents looked at her. Are you saying Judge Whitmore coerced you into falsifying evidence? Lisa nodded quickly. Yes. Yes, I was pressured. He told me we couldn't afford to lose this case. Maya folded her arms. So, you're saying you had no idea that the witness you bribed was a convicted felon? No idea that the security footage had been erased? No idea that every piece of your evidence was fabricated? Lisa's face turned red. I didn't say that, she mumbled. One of the agents sighed. Ms. Monroe, if you're going to cooperate, you need to tell the whole truth. Lisa swallowed hard. She had no good options. If she stayed silent, she'd go down with Whitmore. If she talked, she'd lose everything she had built, but at least she might avoid prison. Maya leaned forward. Lisa, let me give you some legal advice. She smiled. Take the deal while you still can. Lisa let out a shuddering breath. Fine, she whispered. I'll cooperate. Whitmore slammed his fist on the desk. You ungrateful. Enough, one of the agents interrupted. Judge Whitmore, you need to come with us for questioning. Whitmore's head snapped up. You think I'm going to walk out of here like some criminal? Maya tilted her head. Aren't you? The words hit him harder than a gavel. For the first time, he looked defeated. The agents stepped forward, but Whitmore stood abruptly, straightening his robe. I am still a judge, he hissed. This is still my courtroom. Maya nodded. Not anymore. Whitmore's shoulders sagged. He glanced at the jury, who looked at him with disgust, then at the press seated in the back, their cameras capturing every second of his downfall. He had lost. And he knew it. Without another word, he stepped down from the bench and followed the agents out of the courtroom. As soon as the doors closed behind Whitmore and Lisa, the courtroom remained eerily silent. Then, slowly, someone started clapping. Maya turned toward the jury. One of the jurors, an older black woman, stood up and clapped louder. Within seconds, the entire room erupted in applause. Jacob Morales let out a shaky laugh, his eyes welling up. Maya, I don't know how to thank you. She squeezed his shoulder. Just live your life, Jacob. You're free now. The judge was gone. The corrupt prosecution had crumbled. But Maya knew this was bigger than just one case. This trial had exposed something deeper, something systemic. As the applause continued, she knew her fight wasn't over. This was just the beginning. The courtroom had erupted into chaos the moment Judge Richard Whitmore stepped down, led away by federal agents. Lisa Monroe, once a rising star in the district attorney's office, was now a disgraced figure, dragged out alongside him. The press had swarmed the scene, cameras flashing, microphones thrust forward to capture every last detail of the judicial scandal that had just unfolded. But for Maya Carter, the storm was far from over. As she walked out of the courthouse, Jacob Morales beside her, the reality of what had just happened began to sink in. She had won. She had exposed systemic corruption, freed an innocent man, and forced a powerful judge to face justice. But victories like this didn't come without consequences. A black SUV was parked at the curb, tinted windows concealing whoever was inside. Maya felt the weight of unseen eyes on her, but she didn't flinch. Instead, she turned to Jacob. You're free now, she said, offering a small smile. How does it feel? Jacob let out a shaky laugh, running a hand through his hair. Like I've been holding my breath for 2 years and just now started breathing again. He exhaled sharply. I don't know how to thank you. Maya shook her head. Just don't let them break you again. He nodded, but before he could speak, a reporter pushed through the crowd, microphone in hand. Ms. Carter moment. Maya hesitated, but the world was watching. This case had already changed everything. She couldn't stop now. The reporter wasted no time. You've just exposed one of the biggest judicial corruption cases in recent history. But many are saying that Whitmore and Monroe were just the tip of the iceberg. Do you believe this goes deeper? Maya looked directly into the camera. I don't believe it. I know it. The fallout came faster than Maya expected. The very next morning, headlines dominated every major news outlet. Judge Whitmore arrested in shocking courtroom scandal, corruption exposed. Who else was involved? Maya Carter, the woman who took down a system. Some articles praised her, calling her a legal trailblazer. Others? Not so much. One conservative news outlet ran a headline that made Maya's stomach turn. Radical attorney destroys good judges, for what? And it didn't stop there. By noon, Maya's office phone wouldn't stop ringing. Some were reporters. Some were lawyers, threatening to sue her for defamation. Others? Death threats. One voicemail stood out. A distorted male voice crackled through the speaker. You should have stayed in your lane, Carter. This isn't over. Maya closed her eyes, inhaling deeply. She had expected backlash, but she hadn't expected it to come so fast. That evening, as Maya sat in her dimly lit office, her assistant Elena Perez knocked on the door. There's someone here to see you, she said hesitantly. And I think you should hear him out. Maya frowned. Who? Elena stepped aside, revealing a man in an expensive navy blue suit. He was older, with silver hair and a presence that immediately commanded attention. Maya straightened. And you are? The man smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. He extended a business card. David Langston, Senior Counsel, U.S. Department of Justice. Maya's brows lifted slightly. The DOJ? Langston took a seat across from her. Ms. Carter, you have no idea what you've just uncovered. Maya folded her arms. I think I have a pretty good idea. Langston shook his head. No, you don't. He leaned forward. Whitmore and Monroe weren't just taking bribes. They were part of a network designed to keep people like Jacob Morales behind bars. Wrongful convictions, fabricated evidence, targeted prosecutions. Maya's stomach twisted. She had suspected as much, but hearing it confirmed sent a chill through her. Langston continued. You've exposed them, but the people backing them? They won't let this go unanswered. You're in danger, Ms. Carter. Maya didn't blink. And what? You're here to warn me? Tell me to back off. Langston's expression was unreadable. I'm here to offer you something. Protection, resources, power. He slid a folder across her desk. The Department of Justice wants you on our side. Join us, and we can take this entire system down from the inside. Maya stared at the folder, her heartbeat pounding in her ears. She had spent her entire career fighting against the system, but now the system wanted her. Was this her best chance at making real change? Or was it just another trap? She looked up at Langston. And if I say no? Langston sighed, standing up. Then you keep doing what you're doing alone, and you pray that the people who want you gone don't get to you first. He turned to leave but paused at the door. You're good, Carter, he said. But you're about to learn something about power. It doesn't lose easily. And with that he was gone. Maya sat in silence, staring at the folder. She had won a battle, but the war? It was just beginning. Maya Carter sat motionless in her office, staring at the Department of Justice folder left on her desk. The weight of the last few days pressed down on her: the trial, the exposure of corruption, the arrest of Judge Whitmore and Lisa Monroe. She had thought winning the case would bring relief, but instead it had opened a door to something far more dangerous. The DOJ wanted her. And if she refused, she would be standing against powerful people who played by no rules. Her phone buzzed. A message from Elena Perez, her assistant. News just broke. Someone leaked the DOJ's offer to the press. Maya's blood ran cold. She grabbed the remote and turned on the TV. A news anchor, her expression serious, spoke directly into the camera. Sources confirm that the Department of Justice has approached Maya Carter, the defense attorney who recently exposed judicial corruption, with an offer to join their ranks. Some critics claim this proves she was politically motivated all along, while others see it as a sign of just how deep the corruption runs. Maya clenched her jaw. That was fast. Someone wanted to discredit her before she could even make a decision. She barely had time to process it before her phone rang again. Private number. She hesitated, then answered. Ms. Carter, a male voice said smoothly. You're making a lot of noise. Maya stood slowly, gripping the phone tighter. Who is this? You don't need to know my name. You just need to understand something. The voice dropped to a whisper. You should stop while you still can. A slow, creeping dread settled in her chest. But Maya Carter was not the type to back down. By the next morning, Maya's office had been vandalized. The glass door had been shattered, her desk ransacked. Papers were thrown everywhere, and on the wall, a single message was scrawled in red paint. Stay quiet. Elena stood beside her, hands over her mouth. Maya, this isn't just intimidation. They're escalating. Maya's fists clenched. This wasn't a warning. It was a declaration of war. Then her phone rang again. Another private number. She answered, her voice calm but firm. Go to hell. A low chuckle came through the speaker. If you keep pushing, Carter, you won't make it to trial. You're stepping into something bigger than you. Maya's heart pounded, but her voice remained steady. Good. That means I'm right where I need to be. She hung up. That afternoon, David Langston from the DOJ returned. He stepped into her office, carefully avoiding the broken glass. I told you this wouldn't be easy. Maya gestured at the wreckage. Let me guess. You're here to tell me that this wouldn't have happened if I had said yes. Langston sighed. I'm here to tell you that you don't have much time. Whoever is behind this, they have resources, and they are not afraid to use them. Maya leaned against her desk. If I take your offer, what happens? Langston folded his arms. You'll be given protection. A team. We go after the real people pulling the strings. Not just Whitmore or Monroe, but the ones funding them. The ones controlling the system from behind a curtain. Maya exhaled. And if I say no? Langston's expression darkened. Then you'll be left to fight this alone. And from what I've seen today, they're prepared to fight dirty. Silence stretched between them. Finally, Maya said, I need time. Langston nodded. Not too much time. Then he left. Maya stood alone in her office. Her entire career had been built on fighting against corruption from the outside. But what if she had a chance to tear it down from within? Her phone vibrated again. This time it was Jacob Morales. She answered, her voice softening. Jacob, I just saw the news, he said. They're coming after you now, aren't they? Maya swallowed. Yeah. A pause. Then Jacob said, I don't know much about politics or the law, but I know this: they wouldn't be coming after you if they weren't scared. Maya's grip on the phone tightened. Jacob continued, whatever you decide. Maya, don't let them win. Maya closed her eyes. She knew what she had to do. By morning, she would make her choice. And the fight would begin. Maya Carter had made her decision. She wasn't walking away. By dawn, she sat in her office, the remnants of the previous night's attack still visible. Shattered glass crunched under her shoes as she sifted through case files, her mind sharper than ever. Whoever was behind this corruption wanted her silenced, which only proved one thing. She was onto something bigger than she had realized. A knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. Elena Perez, her assistant, stepped inside cautiously. They broke into our office, sent you death threats, and now reporters are swarming outside. Tell me you're not still considering taking the DOJ's offer. Maya leaned back in her chair, exhaling slowly. I don't have a choice, Elena. If I don't, I'll be fighting a war blind. They have power, resources, connections. And the DOJ doesn't? Elena countered. Maya glanced at the folder David Langston had left. Inside were classified reports, wire transfers, and names of people who had orchestrated wrongful convictions for years. Langston wants to expose them, Maya said. But I need to know, is the DOJ really looking for justice, or do they just want control over the story? Elena crossed her arms. So how? Do you find out? Maya's lips curled into a small, dangerous smile. I make them prove it. Later that night, Maya arrived at a private parking garage. David Langston was waiting for her. You took your time, he said, watching as she approached. Maya held up the DOJ folder. I have questions. Langston smirked. I figured. He gestured toward a black SUV. Let's talk somewhere secure. Maya hesitated for half a second before getting in. The car pulled out, taking them through the city, away from the public eye. Langston finally spoke. You're not just exposing a few bad judges, Carter. This is a network, a system built on profit. They manufacture convictions, send the wrong people to prison, and in return, they get funding, promotions, and political influence. Maya kept her expression neutral. And you just want me to trust that the DOJ isn't part of that system? Langston sighed. I won't lie to you. The government has its own agenda. But right now, our goal aligns with yours. We need you. You know how to take these people down. You've already started. Let us help you finish it. Maya studied him. And what happens when I'm no longer useful? Langston met her gaze. That depends on how much damage you're willing to do before then. Maya had spent her entire career trusting no one. So before making her decision, she needed proof. Instead of agreeing immediately, she set a trap. The next day, she leaked false information. She let it slip to the press that she had a witness ready to testify against Judge Whitmore and the entire operation. There was no witness. It was bait. And within hours, someone took it. That night, her office was broken into again. But this time, Maya had been expecting it. She had set up hidden cameras. And when she checked the footage, one of the intruders was a federal agent. Maya's stomach dropped. The DOJ was not just after justice. They were after control. By morning, Maya walked into the DOJ's headquarters with the hidden footage in her bag. Langston greeted her with a smile. You're here to accept the offer, aren't you? Maya tossed a USB drive onto his desk. Not before you explain why one of your agents was caught breaking into my office. Langston's face didn't change. Maya continued, her voice sharp. You don't just want to take this system down. You want to replace it. You want to control who gets prosecuted, who gets exposed, and who gets protected. Langston sighed, rubbing his temple. You're smarter than I gave you credit for. Maya leaned forward. So tell me, are you here to stop corruption? Or are you just another version of it? Langston met her gaze, and for the first time, his carefully crafted persona cracked. Carter, in this game, there is no clean side. You either pick a side or get crushed between them. Maya's heartbeat thundered in her ears. She had just uncovered the real battle. It wasn't just about Whitmore. It wasn't just about the courts. It was about power itself. And now, she had to decide which side of the war she was on. Maya Carter sat in David Langston's office, the weight of his words settling over her like a thick fog. In this game, there is no clean side. You either pick a side or get crushed between them. The USB drive she had thrown onto his desk sat between them like a loaded gun. The footage of a federal agent breaking into her office had exposed the DOJ's real intentions. They didn't just want to end corruption. They wanted to control the outcome. Langston leaned back in his chair, his expression unreadable. You think you've uncovered some grand conspiracy, Carter. But the truth is simpler than that. Maya folded her arms. Enlighten me. Langston exhaled. You want justice. We want stability. The system can't collapse overnight, or chaos will follow. We're trying to dismantle this corruption without burning everything to the ground. Maya's eyes narrowed. So you'd rather let some of them walk free than risk destabilizing the courts? Langston met her gaze. Yes. There it was. The real truth. The DOJ wasn't interested in fixing the system. They were managing it. Maya leaned forward, voice cold. If I work with you, you'll let me take down only the people you approve of. You'll let me fight, but only in a ring you control. Langston didn't deny it. You're smart, Carter. You know how this works. If you push too hard, you won't make it out alive. Maya inhaled slowly. The DOJ wasn't offering her justice. They were offering her a leash. And Maya Carter? She didn't do leashes. Maya stood abruptly. I appreciate the offer, Langston. But if you think I'm going to let powerful men decide which criminals get punished, you don't know me at all. Langston sighed, almost as if he had expected this. Then you're on your own, Carter. She grabbed the USB drive and turned toward the door. But before she could leave, Langston said one last thing. You won't make it alone. And when you realize that, I won't be here to save you. Maya didn't look back. Good. I don't need saving. And then she walked out. By the time she reached her office, Elena was already waiting, pacing anxiously. Tell me you didn't take their deal, Elena said the moment Maya stepped inside. Maya tossed the DOJ folder onto the desk. I didn't. Elena let out a breath of relief. Good. Because while you were gone, I got a call you need to hear. Maya's brows furrowed. From who? Elena grabbed her laptop and hit play on a recorded voicemail. A deep, unfamiliar voice crackled through the speakers. Ms. Carter, you don't know me, but I know you. And I know the DOJ approached you. They want to use you. And if you work with them, you'll be no better than the people you're fighting against. Maya and Elena exchanged a look. You're right not to trust them. But if you want to take down the real people pulling the strings, you're going to need help. Real help. People who aren't part of the system. A pause. Meet me at Pier 42 tonight at midnight. No FBI. No DOJ. Come alone if you really want to win. The voicemail ended. Silence hung between them. Maya exhaled. Someone else was watching this war unfold. And now they wanted to meet. Pier 42 was nearly abandoned at midnight, the air thick with the scent of salt and diesel fuel. The only sounds were the occasional crash of waves and the distant hum of cargo ships. Maya stepped out of her car, her senses on high. Alert. A man leaned against a lamppost, face obscured by the dim light. He was tall, well-dressed, but something about him felt dangerous. You actually came, he said, stepping forward. Maya kept her distance. Who are you? The man smiled faintly. Someone who wants the same thing you do. She didn't move. Which is? He stopped a few feet away, hands in his pockets. To burn them all down. Maya's heartbeat quickened. Whoever this was, he wasn't just another informant. He was something else. She studied him carefully. You're not with the DOJ. And you're not with the FBI. So who are you with? The man chuckled. You're asking the wrong question. The real question is, who am I working against? Maya clenched her jaw. And who would that be? The man's expression darkened. The people who made Whitmore. The people who made Monroe. The ones who built an entire industry on wrongful convictions. Maya didn't blink. You mean the network Langston wouldn't tell me about? The man smirked. Bingo. She exhaled slowly. What do you want from me? The man took another step closer. I want to give you everything the DOJ won't. Real evidence. Real names. A real chance to take them down. Maya didn't trust easily. But something about this man told her he had already been fighting this war long before she stepped onto the battlefield. And why should I trust you? She asked. His smirk faded. Because unlike Langston, I don't want you in my pocket. He pulled a flash drive from his pocket and handed it to her. Take a look. Then call me when you're ready to stop playing by their rules. Then, without another word, he turned and walked into the darkness. Maya sat in her car, the flash drive burning in her palm. She had rejected the DOJ. She had exposed Whitmore and Monroe. And now, she had the chance to go deeper than ever before. But if she did, there would be no turning back. She exhaled, inserting the flash drive into her laptop. The screen flickered to life. A list of names, bank transactions, secret meetings. And at the very top, one name she never expected to see. Her pulse pounded. She had just stepped into a war she might not survive. The glow of Maya Carter's laptop screen cast sharp shadows across her face as she stared at the list of names on the flash drive. She had expected corrupt judges, district attorneys, maybe even police captains. But the name at the top of the list? David Langston, the same DOJ official who had approached her. The man who had promised her resources, protection, and the chance to take down the system. The same man who had tried to convince her that he was on her side. Maya's heart pounded. Langston wasn't just managing the corruption, he was part of it. A sudden, sharp knock at the door made her jolt. Elena Perez, her assistant, rushed in. Maya, we have a problem. Maya snapped the laptop shut. Bigger than the one I just found? Elena's face was pale. The DOJ just issued a formal investigation against you. Maya felt a chill creep down her spine. On what grounds? They're claiming you illegally obtained evidence and tampered with court proceedings during the Morales trial. Elena swallowed hard. They want to disbar you. Maya let out a slow breath. She had seen this move before. When they couldn't control you, they tried to destroy you. Within hours, Maya's face was plastered across every major news network. Breaking news. Controversial attorney under DOJ investigation, hero or fraud. Maya Carter accused of ethics violations. Was the Whitmore trial rigged? Maya threw her phone onto her desk. The smear campaign had begun. Jacob Morales called her. Tell me this is just another trick. Maya clenched her jaw. It's a trick, Jacob. But they're serious about it. Jacob cursed under his breath. What do you need me to do? Maya shook her head. Nothing. If you try to defend me publicly, they'll go after you too. She refused to let him be collateral damage. As soon as she hung up, her office phone rang. She answered cautiously. You should have taken my deal, Carter. Langston's voice came through smoothly. Maya's blood boiled. And you should have been smarter about covering your tracks. Langston chuckled darkly. Oh, you think that flash drive makes you untouchable? You think exposing me is going to save you? Maya gripped the phone tighter. I don't need saving, Langston. But you? You should start worrying. Langston's tone turned cold. Walk away, Maya, before you lose everything. Maya let out a slow breath. I already lost everything once. That's how I learned how to fight. And she hung up. Maya knew what she had to do. Langston thought he could bury her. But he had underestimated how far she was willing to go. She picked up the flash drive, grabbed her coat, and walked out the door. Where are you going? Elena called after her. Maya didn't stop. To burn the whole thing down. The next morning, Maya stood in front of a sea of cameras. She had no law firm backing her. No protection. No safety net. Just the truth. She adjusted the microphone. For years, I believed in the justice system. I believed that if we worked hard enough, fought smart enough, and never gave up, we could change it. She took a slow breath. But I was wrong. Reporters leaned forward. The corruption I exposed in Judge Whitmore's courtroom was just the beginning. What I found since then? Maya pulled out the flash drive and held it up. This is a record of every name involved. Judges, prosecutors, FBI agents, even officials in the Department of Justice. A murmur rippled through the crowd. That's right, Maya continued. The same people investigating me are the ones running this system of corruption. Reporters exploded with questions. Maya raised her hand for silence. The DOJ thinks they can intimidate me. They think they can strip me of my license, ruin my reputation, and make me disappear. But I will not stop. She met the camera head-on. I am calling for a full federal investigation. If the DOJ wants to come for me, let them. But I promise you this, I'm coming for them, too. That night, Maya sat alone in her office. The world was watching now. And Langston? He would have to make a choice. Would he try to silence her? Or had she just forced his hand? Maya was ready for either. And she wasn't afraid. The war wasn't over. But now, it was on her terms. And that's the story of how Maya Carter refused to back down even when the system tried to silence her. What would you have done in her place? This case may be fictional, but the fight for justice is very real. If you loved the story, make sure to subscribe for more high-stakes legal dramas, shocking plot twists, and powerful moments of truth. And before you go, where in the world are you watching from? Drop your country or city in the comments below.